Morning, hope you're doing really well. Firstly, just wanted to say thank you for all the lovely comments and well wishes on my last video. Yeah, that whole episode was a complete and utter nightmare. So just reading your comments and taking all that in did really help and help me feel supported when I was stuck on my own in a foreign country in a hospital for so long. So as has been pointed out by some people, the video didn't actually show the crash because I wasn't filming, and it didn't really tell the story of what happened next because obviously I was in no fit state to film any updates or do anything at all, given the fact that I was quite beat up and in hospital. But I am home now, thank goodness. So because there's been quite a lot of interest, I'm now going to tell the story of how I crashed and what happened afterwards. Oh, bloody hell, I'm still traumatised. So here we go. So if you've seen my previous video, you will know that the crash happened on the very first day of a trip to La Palma in the Canary Islands. I was there for an event called Gravel Ground, and it was the first part of a 3-week trip that I was taking, which would see me end up in Nepal riding the Annapurna circuit. So when I was lying on the floor very injured, that was one of the many things that I thought about. I was like, God damn it! No, Nepal! Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Do take a look at my previous video if you want to see what the landscape was like in La Palma. It was a wonderful start to what looked like a good event, but sadly it all went pear-shaped after I reached the summit of La Palma and began descending down a gravel road just down towards the campsite where we were planning to stay that night. Again, if you see my previous video, you'll know that I was riding my hardtail, even though the event's called Gravel Ground. There were a few people on mountain bikes and on e-bikes. Essentially, the Gravel Ground event is open to most kinds of bikes, depending on what your preference is. And I chose the mountain bike because I was then going on to Nepal, so that was the bike that I wanted to ride there. So I spent a long time climbing to the top of the island on this mountain bike, and when it was finally time to descend, I thought, this is my time. I set off down a fairly normal sort of standard road that gradually turned into more of a dirt road and then got chunkier and chunkier, the gravel growing in size, until I was riding down a kind of double track section with some quite chunky rocks on it. As I descended, I saw some of the other women that I'd noticed on the ride on their gravel bikes, and they were taking it very easy, picking their way down, going quite slowly and being very sensible. I, however, was on my mountain bike and I thought, woohoo! So I rode on through past a couple of the women on their gravel bikes, thoroughly enjoying this non-technical, fairly straightforward descent. Yes, there were chunky rocks. No, it's not anything I haven't ridden before. I wasn't riding in any unusual way. I wasn't being particularly reckless. I mean, bear in mind that I go on enduro mountain bike holidays where I take a shuttle to the top and then ride quite full on sort of downhill trails. I mean, repeatedly. This was nothing like that. This was like a chunky gravel road. So I had no reason to believe that I should ride in any particularly cautious manner. I rode fairly quickly, that's how I ride, but it was just nothing that weird. Anyway, so I descended past the women and then we got to a kind of sweeping left-hander, and as I went into the left-hander, I just felt my bike lose traction. And I mean, this has happened tons of times before. You feel your bike kind of lose traction, you go, ooh, and then you're like, ooh, that was close. Well, this time I didn't manage to pull it back. The bike lost traction, I started slipping a bit, I think I fishtailed, and the next thing I knew, bam, I had hit the floor so hard. I immediately checked my teeth because I felt my face hit the floor. I was wearing a peaked mountain bike helmet, so I think that did help keep some of my face off the ground, but I checked my teeth and I was like, yes, they're still there, thank goodness. I jumped up to try and get out of the way because I was in the middle of this gravel road, and that's when I noticed my arm. I took a very brief glimpse down and my brand new lovely 7 mesh yellow anorak was burst open, and so was my elbow, and it basically just looked like a horror show, like a pomegranate had been smashed with bits of bone sticking out. Basically, I could see all the way down to the bone. At that point, I screamed. I was sort of walking around screaming and blood was actually squirting out of my arm. So I called to the woman behind me. Thank God I was in an event and not in the middle of nowhere solo. I called to the woman behind who I've met before and was actually my roommate at the hotel. I said, I've had a crash, help, help, I've had a crash. And she said, oh, are you okay? And I was like, no, get an ambulance. I was quite worried because of the amount of blood and it was kind of going everywhere. So one thing that crossed my mind was the thought I might, pass out from loss of blood. But very quickly, another woman, Laura, came over to help me and she helped me to sit down and try to kind of calm me down, settle me down and deal with getting the ambulance. So Laura had a look at my elbow. I decided not to look at it ever again because it was way too scary and frightening. And I started feeling really, really unwell, like really nauseous, in excruciating pain. So I curled up on my left-hand side and lay on the floor whilst I was covered with an emergency blanket to keep the sun off and keep me warm, depending on which one ended up being more necessary. And the girls called the organisers, who called the medics, and after maybe 20 minutes or so of me lying on the floor, kind of groaning in pain, the medics arrived and after assessing the situation realised that it would be very, very tricky to get an ambulance down there. When the medics arrived, I thought, yay, they're going to give me some painkillers because I cannot describe the pain I was in. I mean, my arm was broken, so and it was all exposed. They didn't give me any painkillers because I think the protocol is you hold off until you get to hospital just in case they have to operate straight away. So I continued lying there whilst plans were made to get a helicopter to fly over and pick me up. There was nowhere for the helicopter to land, no way for the ambulance to get down there. So essentially I just had to lie on the floor groaning and moaning and shaking and feeling very upset and worried. After what seemed like an unbelievably long time. I mean, was it 2 hours? I think it could have been 2 hours. I don't know. It felt like a very long time, but obviously I was in a lot of pain. After a while, I finally heard the sound of the chopper hovering over me. And it took quite a few times for them to be able to stop in the correct place to lower down a paramedic. And the whole time I could hear the helicopter arriving and then the helicopter leaving and then the helicopter arriving. And then I'm like, come on, help me. After some time, a medic was lowered down to me and he came over and started assessing the situation. He was joined by another paramedic. I think there were 3 down there at the end, but I mean, I was pretty out of it and groaning and I really actually just wanted to go to sleep, but the paramedics told Laura that she needed to keep me talking, keep me awake. I was just thinking, God damn it, why can't I just go to sleep? Then I won't be in as much pain. But anyway, because of the possible head injury, they had to keep me awake. Thanks, guys. Anyway, those medics also didn't give me any painkillers. But what they did do was start trying to sort of stabilise my arm so that I could get in the stretcher and be lifted up to the helicopter. And this really sent me under because, well, I had a broken arm. So they started like trying to get me to straighten my arm, which I couldn't. They were trying to strap it, which was agony. And I remember sort of going into some sort of shaking fit and really losing my shit. It was horrible. But after a while, they managed to get my arm in sort of balanced on something and get me all strapped into this stretcher. And then they attached the stretcher to a line coming down from the helicopter and winched me up. Now, I am really scared of heights. When Laura told me that they were going to be taking me away by helicopter, that is when I burst into tears. Not when I was lying there with my elbow sticking out of my flesh. It was when she said I'd have to go in a helicopter because I'm so scared of heights. So I had to just really put my big girl pants on. I closed my eyes and me and the medic got winched up to the helicopter and I just had to not open my eyes at all. As we got closer, I didn't know we were closer, I had my eyes closed, suddenly I felt the stretcher slip like that, and I thought, oh, that's it, I'm going to slide out. But it was actually them just putting me into the helicopter. So once I'm in the helicopter, again, no drugs, and I really wanted to go to sleep in there, but one of the medics kept keeping me awake, which was unwelcome, but helpful, of course. And then after a journey of, say, 20 or 30 minutes, I'm not sure, we landed, they put me in an ambulance, and they took me into the hospital. This is a very long story. I'm sorry if it's boring. It's probably cathartic for me to share this, so I'm going to carry on. In the hospital, they started trying to, again, straighten my arm. Stop it, guys, it's broken. And I had another sort of meltdown about that. And there's still no immediate painkillers. By this time, I'd been lying there with this damn arm for, well, it must have been a few hours. So yeah, it was horrible. It was really, really horrible. And then they started wheeling me around, giving me x-rays and stuff like that. Eventually, I got some painkillers, and I think eventually I passed out. I don't know, because I woke up in a hospital room. And that was the beginning of the next part of the operation. So, because I had so completely devastated my elbow, the wound was really, really nasty, and it was entirely filled with dirt and grit. And obviously the bone was visible, etc., etc. Because of that, they had to do 2 operations to deal with the flesh wound. And they had to give me unbelievable quantities of antibiotics to prevent an infection. A friend of mine, Tom, who actually sent me a message when this happened, he had an accident surfing, and he actually got a bone infection, which meant he nearly lost his leg. So I knew how important this stage was, but it was very frustrating because I had the accident on Thursday and they couldn't operate to repair my elbow until the following Wednesday. So I had, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 6 or 7 days lying in hospital with a broken arm, still with a broken arm. And it was so painful. And they kept giving me bloody paracetamol. I'm like, give me something stronger. I was in such a state. The antibiotics made me feel very, very ill. And also, I don't know, trauma? I don't know. I was just in such a state. I literally didn't even leave my bedroom for, I think 10 days. I didn't leave the room, not at all. And when I first got there, I was having to pee in a bedpan, and I was having to have nurses wash me. I mean, I was in a right mess. Seem all happy now. Bursting into tears all the time back there. Anyway, on the Wednesday, they finally operated, and lucky me, they did it when I was not fully sedated. They put a block in the nerve in my shoulder, and then they sliced open my arm because they needed a bigger hole in order to put wires and stuff in my elbow. They sliced open my arm, and I'm lying there, and I can just hear whilst they're drilling holes in my elbow and pulling wires through. So that was pretty unpleasant. Granted, I couldn't feel anything, but I mean, it's still really, really horrible. Anyway, so that was nearly 2 weeks ago now. I had the surgery on the Wednesday, and I had to stay in hospital until the following Monday on more antibiotics that made me feel very ill. And then eventually on the Monday, finally, Sam came out to get me. I was released from hospital on the Monday afternoon after 12 days in hospital, and the following day on the Tuesday we flew home. It's now Tuesday again. I've been home for a week. I have been to have my stitches out, and I've been having the dressing changed on my elbow because it hasn't got a cast on. So in here there's a bunch of wires that are holding my elbow together, and then there was the nice neat surgical wound, and then there's the mess that's the rest of my elbow. I don't really know what is going to be the long-term outcome of this injury. Currently I have lost the use of my little finger entirely. Like, I can move it from this joint because that's like my hand, but I cannot move that little finger. The ring finger, well, I can move that joint, so that's better, isn't it? But I cannot move the end. And I've got all this numbness and burning pins and needles in my hand. So that's something to do with the ulnar nerve. And it's very frustrating because it means I can't actually grip anything. So obviously I'm thinking of my mountain bike handlebars. How am I going to hold mountain bike bars just with 2 fingers. That's not enough grip. That's shit, because also you brake with your left finger. So what, I'm going to mountain bike with 1 finger? That's not going to work. For gravel cycling, I can hold the bars, I can move, I can shift like that. So that should be all right. But then the other problem is my elbow. Like, I know it's early days, but I've actually broken this elbow before, so I'm a little bit worried about how it's going to recover. Currently, that's the only movement I've got. So it's really annoying that I can't touch my face. I can't do a ponytail. I put mascara on with my left hand today, so I can't do eyeliner because I can only do that with the right hand. And I can't open a jar. I mean, there's a lot of things I can't do. Just not being able to touch your face is really annoying. Like, yeah, it's really annoying. So hopefully, with a bit of physio, I will get back more movement in my elbow, but the implications of this nerve problem are pretty unknown. When I went to the fracture clinic, the doctor was just baffled by it and sent me away to return in a month. So it's not super helpful. On a more positive note, I have had the all clear to get on my turbo trainer as long as I can set it up in a position that means I don't put any weight through this elbow. I'll update you on that, on my recovery, on my progress. Maybe we'll have a chat with my coach. I'm also going to be getting down the gym just to do some lower body strength stuff, because obviously I can't do any free weights, so I'll jump on the gym machines. But yeah, that's it. That's the story. As I said, I wasn't doing anything weird. I wasn't doing anything particularly dangerous or technical. It was just unlucky. I mean, maybe I got complacent, maybe I was unlucky. I've been questioning it ever since. Did I have too much air in my tyres? I just think if you're going to spend your entire life riding bikes pretty fast and doing stuff like this, at some point you'll probably have an accident. I've had loads. So I just thank my lucky stars that it wasn't my leg or my back or my head, and also that I was in a country with such amazing healthcare, wonderful doctors and hospitals and stuff like that. Yeah. So that is my story. 12 days all alone in hospital in Spain. Maybe a long-term injury, I don't know, but at least I'm going to be back on the turbo trainer. So I'll update you soon on all my new plans for 2025. Gutted about Nepal not happening, but there'll be other fun things to do. Anyway, hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for all the lovely support. If you don't subscribe already, that would be another way you could help me, so please do that. But yeah, that's all from me. Bye.